All right. I think we're live. I'm going to just wait on Ashley, our marketing coordinator, to give me the thumbs up that our volume is good and the sound is good and the camera is good. So, as always, thank you to Ashley for setting this up, and thank you for everybody who's here on the live event. Got a guest with us today, or in-house guest, that was really, Ashley says we're good to go. Really more about me feeling very weird after doing this for months and just talking into an empty camera.
Right.
So,
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah. So we've got Carlos Hennings, and Carlos is RentPrep's new business development manager, and still learning the ropes and coming along. But I figured, at least to create some conversation around this
Sure.
stuff. Some of the stuff I feel like you're going to be able to answer and give some insight on. But again, for selfishly, it just makes it less weird. So I've been doing this for the whole year, every month, coming to you guys live, doing these AMAs, and I got to tell you, it has given me a complex to just talk for an hour straight into an empty camera. So something a little bit different to change things up a little. And again, thanks to Ashley, as always, for helping to set this up and bringing people in. And I know that we got a really good response from the email, and got a lot of people joining. We're going to even watch the preview after this is recorded. First-time viewers, so welcome everybody if you haven't been along on one of these AMAs with us before. I'm going to do my best to try to get through as many questions as we can in an hour. We've got quite a few, I think 20-something so far that people have reached out ahead of time to ask their questions. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to those as well. Same disclaimer I always get. I'll do my best to answer every question. If I don't have an answer, I will usually say, I have no idea. And either get you the answer or at least give you guys the right resource, or a line to us directly that we'll follow up and find an answer for you. So I just don't want to make any promises I can't keep. So jumping right in.
Yeah. All right, so our first question is going to be from Tracy. Tracy is asking, do you suggest using a month-to-month rental agreement as opposed to an annual lease during these uncertain economic times? That's a good question.
That is a good question. I would say that's kind of a judgment call on the applicant. If you've got a really good, solid applicant that you wanna keep around and get, and they might even want the security of a full year lease term. I don't know if I would say no because of fear of economic uncertainty. So I think it kind of depends on the applicant. If you've got somebody that just started a new job, or maybe they don't have that long-term stability, that doesn't seem like a horrible idea. Get them on a month-to-month.
Sure.
That way you can end that lease if you start to sniff trouble ahead. But if they're a good tenant, and like I always say on these AMAs, good tenants want good landlords, and good tenants are pretty hard to come by frequently and consistently. So you want to do what you can to keep them hooked in. So
would you suggest maybe like a quarter to quarter, maybe? So maybe every 90 days rather than a month to month, so that you still have some substance there, you still have some certainty for your own sake that this person isn't just going to jump ship after a month?
Yeah, I feel like that's not crazy.
Yeah.
It gives you a little bit, it's kind of a happy medium, a little bit of a compromise. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, Tracy, I think it comes down to you understanding who you're renting to, put into consideration the amount of time they've been with you. If they put some time in with you, that they've been on point from start to finish, then yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to consider. I don't know if it's a long-term thing, but during the uncertain economic times that we're in right now, it's definitely something to consider. Just look at all your different options there. Month to month, maybe 60 days, maybe 90 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately you can make that decision based on your knowledge of the person that's renting to you.
Yeah, good question.
Cool.
All right.
All right, let's move on. Debbie Lee. So, Miss Debbie Lee, if tenants move out and still owe unpaid rent and repair/cleaning costs, how do I claim the money back?
Tenant moves out.
Tenant moves out,
Yep.
but they still owe you some unpaid rent.
Yeah.
There's cleaning costs,
Yeah.
repair costs.
Okay.
How do I get my money back?
So let's assume first that there's a security deposit,
Right.
because there probably is.
And let's assume it exceeds that now.
Yeah. So first on the security deposit, keep in mind every single year consistently the number one type of court case brought to landlord-tenant courts is security deposit disputes.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that, landlords need to make sure that they are handling security deposits perfectly.
Okay.
Not close to perfect, perfectly. So that means documenting everything really, really well.
Okay.
Taking pictures, timestamp pictures if you could do that. I know on rentprep.com we've got a good resource on how to add timestamps to any smartphone.
Okay.
So you want to go to court basically saying, hey, this is the extent of the damage, this is what's happened,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to first take it out of the security deposit.
Okay.
If there's anything left over, again, document it really well.
Mhm.
Document what the repair costs are going to be, or cleaning costs, whatever the past due rent is, adding that onto it. And most likely you're going to end up getting a judgment against this person. And unfortunately, any landlords out there who have been through this process know it's definitely not a guaranteed way to get your money back.
Okay.
It's a long road. And I know, Carlos, from your experience in the credit industry,
Yep.
judgments are only as good as
you can collect.
as your ability to execute.
So that'll bring me to my next thing. Let's just say Debbie goes this route and gets the judgment.
Mhm.
And like we just both agreed on, it's only as good as you can collect on it. What are the next steps? Like, okay, I got a judgment against this person.
Yeah.
Do I just sit and wait? Or is there other steps I can take now to take action on this judgment?
Right. So judgments give you the ability to do a lot of different things, like, for example, garnish wages,
Okay.
which is only helpful if they've had a steady employment. Now, chances of that might not be great.
Sure.
So it also gives you the ability to freeze their bank account. In most states, you have to have $2,500 in order to in the account in order to freeze it.
Right.
If they owe you money, there's a
Right.
very good chance they don't have $2,500 in that
Exactly.
bank account. The last kind of a Hail Mary option, which I actually prefer, and I've talked to a lot of landlords that have success with this, is a tax refund garnishment.
Mm.
Needs to be filed before the next calendar year. It's usually in December.
Okay.
So they go to the court. It's usually like a $15 filing fee, and if this person has a tax refund coming to them,
Mm-hmm.
you could claim that. So they won't get the tax refund. The landlord gets the check. If the amount of the refund doesn't cover the full amount of the judgment, you got to refile again next year. If they're not getting a refund, you get nothing, and you got to refile again next year. So, your ability to execute on that judgment is key. And unfortunately, judgments no longer appear on credit reports. So
Okay.
the only way that this is going to jam the person up into the future is if they're going to try and purchase a house.
Or
Yeah.
something, a big item.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
a lot of landlords struggle with this. May not be the most popular opinion out there, but I'm old school. I love the idea of turning your judgment over to a collection agency.
Mm.
Contingency based, they don't get paid unless that person pays.
Right.
Gives them a little skin in the game. They're going to
Sure.
go after it. Make sure you use a good collection agency. We're here in Buffalo as the collection agency capital of the world. There's plenty of bad eggs out there, and you
Sure.
don't want to tarnish your name and attach it to a bad agency. But yeah, I would say collection agency is kind of a hands-off approach of like, let those guys do their thing,
Sure.
and they'll work it until it gets paid.
Yeah.
Or until it dies.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we're giving you different options here. I think that really goes beyond that whole judgment. I think that's where a lot of times, people get stuck. Okay, is this as far as I can go with it? But, like you said, we have different options now beyond that judgment. And again, a lot of these resources you can find on the RentPrep site, but continue to log into to the AMAs, and these are types of questions that we like to kind of go over a little bit more into detail than what's really on the websites and things like that. We can kind of give a little bit more personal opinions and or professional backgrounds that we've had doing this for so long. This one's from Anonymous, so I hope it's already pre-read it. It should be okay. This individual would like to know, what's the best way to handle a tenant wanting to add a roommate midway through a 1-year lease? I think that even like colleges and things like that, college areas, stuff like that would have something like this where, you rent it out to maybe 3 college kids that maybe junior year or something like that, or even sophomore year, and one of them decide to drop out or whatever the case may be for whatever reason, and now they're down to 2, and they're like, wait a minute, we went into this with 3. The landlord's probably thinking, Jesus, there's got to be a way for me to secure that. So how do we do that? How can we amend the lease, or do we have to start a whole new lease? What would be the best way of doing something like that? I would assume probably amend, not rather than restart, because again, if they're only expected to be there for a certain amount of time, but again, I guess there are a couple of options.
So yeah, I would say depending on the situation, which it sounds like you've had a tenant on a 1-year lease. The lease was in that tenant's name, and now they want to add a roommate. My first thought as a landlord is, well, what if it doesn't work out with that new roommate?
Okay.
So what I don't want to do is I don't want to disrupt the existing lease that I have in place.
Okay.
And I want to make sure that the person that I have the existing lease with is still the responsible party. If they get a roommate and the roommate's going to chip in and help pay the rent, cool, great, that's good for them. If things don't work out, let's say the roommate's a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and they just met on Tinder for the first time, and things fall apart quick.
I hope they're not moving in after one Tinder date.
Right. Well, you never know. So we hear some pretty crazy tenant stories. I feel like that's possible. So you don't want to blow up your lease. You don't want to create all this extra work for yourself. So I would say you want to screen that additional roommate, and you want to get them on a lease. But I wouldn't tie the financial responsibility to them if you have an existing lease in place already. The agreement to pay rent would be between them and the person who is actually holding the lease.
Gotcha.
So it's up to that person who's on that lease to chase them down for the rent money every month.
Okay.
If they can't get it, they're still responsible for paying that rent. Me as the landlord, I wouldn't want to now have to chase down this person that
more than one.
Right, exactly. So in that specific case, I would say keep the financial responsibility on
the original lease.
Yep. Write a new lease for the roommate based on the amount of time that they're expecting to be there. No financial responsibility, but they still have the same responsibilities as that they're agreeing to on the lease. So they're not going to smoke in the place, or they're not going to bring their pets in, or whatever other lease conditions that you have.
So it's more like a living agreement rather than a lease in a sense. Like you're allowing them to live on the property, which you obviously want to do a background check on the individual. But at the end of the day, if they both decide to beat feet, you at least have somebody you can hold accountable still, which is that original leasee.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. I feel like that's the low friction way to handle it. Because again, as a landlord, you don't want to, get yourself down or take on more work than you have to, or have to put more energy into it than you have to. I would leave it up to that original leasee. Okay, if this is the roommate you're bringing in, you came to me saying you want a roommate. You manage this roommate. Right. We'll get them on the agreement. They still have to play by the rules, but in terms of the money,
you're 100% responsible still.
You're still 100% responsible, so you chase this guy down if he doesn't pay.
Cool. All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Rebecca, I wish they'd tell us like what area they're in. Like Rebecca from St. Louis, or something like that.
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes?
Yeah.
All right. All right, that'll work. So Rebecca, wherever you may be. Your question: if the tenant doesn't pay rent for the last 2 months of a year lease and doesn't reply to the landlord email, text message, phone calls, you're asking, can a landlord knock on the door and ask to check him in person without notifying beforehand that the landlord is going there to see him, i.e., a pre-inspection.
Right, right. So
I would think it's your property. Couldn't you just, if, at any point in time, could you just knock on the door
you can knock on the door.
and say, "Hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you here for 2
Yeah.
months. Where you been?"
Yeah. So the rule is about entry.
Right. Yeah.
You have to give proper notice to
Right.
entry. But if you're just knocking on the door,
You can knock on the door. I can knock. I used to knock on doors as a kid. And used to knock on the door and then hide
And
in
then
bushes
run,
across
right.
the street and see if they come to the door.
you may not want to do that as the landlord, but maybe. But I would say it depends on how much you want confrontation too.
Right.
Because I would expect that you're probably going to have some confrontation in that situation for sure. But don't go knocking with the expectation that you're going in to do an inspection necessarily, because again, you've got to go through. You got to give proper notice in order
To actually walk into the dwelling.
Yeah.
But if you want to knock on the door,
And
because
just
at this point it's just a wellness check as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Hey, what's
You know,
up? What's going on?
Yeah, I haven't been able to get a hold of you in 2 months. I've been
Right.
Emails, text messages, phone calls. Are you good?
Yeah.
Are you still here?
Right.
At that point, I think you're just trying to figure out, are you still here?
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. I don't see an issue with it. I would be cautious, be careful. Like I said, expect there's probably going to be a confrontation. This is somebody who owes you 2 months worth of rent.
I think it depends on the approach, though. But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
If you go in there banging on the doors and all
Right.
that and saying, "Hey,"
Right. Yeah.
you can't be doing that.
No, you gotta go in as the concerned.
Right.
Hey, like you said, wellness check.
Wellness check.
Want to make sure you're alive.
Right.
Haven't heard anything. What's going on?
There it is.
You good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're good as long as you don't enter the property or have expectations that you're going to enter the property without. Most states it's 24 hours notice.
Gotcha. Okay. That's Rebecca. Deb. Again, well, we had Debbie before. Now we have Deb. So what Deb is asking, let's just see here. We got a couple people replying here. Hold on one second here. Let's take a look. What do we have?
Oh, you want to do the live?
Oh no, I just thought they were asking about this. We can get to those, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let's just kind of run down real quick. So there's a couple good ones in here.
All right. Heidi will get to you in a second, and Mary will get to you in a second. We see that you guys chatted in your live questions. We'll get to them.
We'll get you right. I'll tell you what. We'll do it right after Deb. I already said Deb's name, so Deb's probably at the edge of her seat right now, saying this is the one right here. So this is a quick one.
Okay.
All right. So a question from Deb. She asked, "Can you charge a finance fee on a past due balance like a credit card?"
If it's in the original lease agreement.
It's got to be in the lease agreement.
Yeah, you can't just pick numbers and decide what it's going to be. I've talked to a lot of attorneys that have said, if you get somebody to agree to something in a lease agreement,
that's it.
As long as it's not absolutely off the wall crazy or unlawful, they're agreeing to it. So yeah, as long as that's in your lease agreement and they've agreed to it ahead of time.
Right.
Yes, and you should be doing that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I know back in the collection days, working accounts, some of the clients would have that in the original patient information. If my account goes to collections, I'm responsible for any type of collection fees and or attorney fees.
Yep.
But if they didn't, you couldn't tack that fee on.
Right.
That was it. They were just agreeing to that principle.
Yes.
So it's got to be in the agreement, and you don't want to put that in the fine print.
Right.
You want to be bold. You want it to stand out, but not where it's obnoxious, I would assume.
Right. You want them to acknowledge it.
You want them to know.
And I would say also, a strategy that works really well is tie an amount to each day. So if it's $10 a day, or $50 for the late fee. So if you're late, it's $50. And then every day that you're late, it's an additional $10 or whatever. You want to motivate them to pay fast.
Right.
If they know they're paying a $100 late fee, whether they're late on the 1st or the 30th, you're not incentivizing them to pay on the
That's
you know,
right.
on the day after versus wait 30 days and then
So,
pay.
so be specific about it. I like that. That's a great strategy. So
Yeah.
then, yeah, they got to. It's going to come down to you and the internet bill, I would think, or something that's
Well-
or my whatever my apps or stuff like that, my Spotify.
Yep.
Or am I paying partial rent? Well,
Yeah.
if I get it.
Yeah. So yeah, you want them to prioritize, and you want them to know
Right.
that
You
this.
got to be top of the list.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you do that? Be specific. Make sure it's there. And again, don't get too obnoxious with it, where it's too detailed, but
Yeah.
just enough.
Yep.
You have a base, and then boom, every
Yep.
day you're gonna get
Yep.
tacked on this.
Exactly.
Then you can't fight it.
Yeah. No,
You can
they
kick and scream all you want.
agreed to it. You agreed.
Okay.
You pay
All right.
every day.
Deb, I hope that answers your question.
All
We're
right.
gonna hit a couple of the questions off to the side here. We have Miss Heidi.
Yeah. Related question. Let's say I do the repairs on an apartment that the tenants have damaged once they've moved. How do I charge them? Of course, I will have receipts, but what about my time? As long as, again, you are clear and reasonable about documenting what the breakdown of charges are. So if you have to present this to court, to a judge, and you say, okay, it was $100 for paint supplies, and then, of course, I charge $500 an hour for my time to paint. The judge is gonna be like, no,
You're not Da Vinci.
that's unreasonable. Yeah, what do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not painting a masterpiece. You're just
Right.
repainting the wall. So you're gonna want to charge what the going rate to charge
Sure.
would be. So my advice, Heidi, would be,
Get some quotes from a local company
There
or
you go.
something. Say,
Yep.
hey, how much are you gonna charge me to paint this
Yeah.
wall?
exactly.
What's your labor breakdown?
Yep. So that way, if you're challenged,
Right.
you can at least say, well, I got quotes,
Mhm.
and this is what it would have cost me.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm a do-it-yourselfer, so I did it myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great question and great advice too. Go out, get some quotes, free quotes. Ask them what would you charge, what do you charge hourly,
Right.
and then make sure that you're, itemizing that in there as well, as long as it's within reason.
Mhm.
And I just
You're not doing a full rental.
no.
Well,
And
I had to rip out I just redid my kitchen.
they might, and it's happened.
I guess it comes down to the pictures.
Yeah,
beforehand,
it
too.
comes. Yeah. Document really well.
Before and after.
Yeah.
Clutch.
Yeah, and I always make sure I tell landlords this too, and again, some experience that Carlos and I both have. Don't try to gouge somebody or make it unreasonable, because you're only hurting yourself, because they're going the chances of a judge looking at it and saying that's out of reason. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that. So make it within reason. Be reasonable. Get what's fair. Get
Yeah.
what the going rate is.
Yeah, don't try to make a profit on this.
No, we all know your pain and suffering is worth something, but unfortunately,
That's the name of the game now.
yeah,
I guess.
that's the cost.
Yeah.
All right. So then we've got
Mary.
Mary.
I promise Mary.
all right, Mary. My rental properties are in Cook County, Illinois. They passed an ordinance last year, which we have to run the criminal check after getting the credit score. This is true.
Yep.
This is also the case in other areas of the country. Virginia, I think, just passed this as well. Can RentPrep do something to help us? We can't presently do this on RentPrep now. So you can do it on RentPrep if you order the RentPrep basic package, and then you can add the criminal check after you get the results.
Yeah.
With the Smart Move product that's on RentPrep, it's a bundled product, and so you can't order it without the criminal attached to it. Good news is, somewhere out into the future, probably January, RentPrep is very excited to finally be launching our V3 platform, which will have these capabilities.
All those bells and whistles.
All those bells and whistles.
We're getting heated seats.
Yeah, exactly, right. And heated mirrors too.
Heated
like
mirrors,
yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of nice
Yeah.
functions. And,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we're gonna have a new feature on there called the product configurator, and this
That's a
will
mouthful.
it is right. So it'll allow them to be more specific, pick and choose, kind of an a la carte. So we're not quite there yet, Mary, but it's on the horizon. We obviously are listening to our clients,
Absolutely.
and this is something that we've heard quite a bit of feedback, and we've been working on it. So appreciate the patience. We will get that for you.
Hang tight. We'll get to you, Mary.
Hang tight. We're working
this,
on it.
We're this close.
Yeah. All right. Lisa, we'll jump back into the
absolutely.
questions. I'm just trying to get to people who are alive here
Definitely.
So Lisa says, regarding the tax garnishment, I was told that you can only garnish taxes if it's only for a federal loan. So not in my experience. Tax garnishment is filed at the county, and I have talked to more than one landlord who
has been successful.
Yeah, this is their strategy. The one at the top of my mind was in Michigan, and I remember they had a weird filing deadline that it had to be in by, but they were successful with it. They didn't collect the whole thing on the first shot, but they were able to grab something. So I'm not sure, Lisa, if you're thinking garnish taxes if it's a federal loan. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's on the federal side. Maybe you're thinking liens specifically. I'm not sure, but in my experience, landlords have been able to successfully do this.
If you find something else out, please reach out to us. We can get updated on that too. On our end, I'll most likely take a look after the live feed here and kind of, dive a little bit deeper into that. But I know from my experience too, it's definitely something you could do. It doesn't have to be on a federal level.
Yeah, and so Lisa, you're asking if it's area specific. I would say it's very area specific in the sense of when the filing deadlines are for your county. So
right.
I would go to your county website, look up filing fees, types of filings, and you should be able to find something in there that tells you exactly when the deadline is, how much it's going to be, and it'll probably give you some good info in there as well in terms of what you have access to.
Yeah.
If there's any limitations per state or something like that.
Heidi, you're welcome.
Yeah. Lisa, follow up. Late fees are area specific. Doesn't matter what your lease says. Colorado just passed a law. You cannot charge more than a $50 late fee once per month. Cannot charge a late fee on past due amount of a late fee, and cannot credit payment towards late fee first. So, good point. A lot of states are picking up on this now. It's happening faster than we've ever seen before. So you got states like New York, Massachusetts, Colorado that are putting restrictions.
They're capping
it off, saying this is the most that you can do. So, great point. Make sure that you're compliant with your state.
Got to be in line.
But I don't know of any states that say no late fees. There's just restrictions on
how much,
and keeping them within reason.
Sure.
So, unfortunately, it takes one person to ruin it all, and so somebody out there is trying to charge a crazy late fee, and then the state steps in and says, no, wait a second, we got to limit this thing.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to jump back into next questions from the submitted questions?
All right. Tracy. So Tracy is asking, this is an opinion question.
Okay, I like this. Yeah.
So I don't know how much my knowledge on this. I'll be honest, isn't that extensive on this than yours, Mike. But it says here, do you think the Section 8 program will be terminated in the near future?
That's a good question. So I'm assuming, who's the question from?
Tracy.
So Tracy, I'm assuming you're talking about the universal housing voucher that's been kicked around and talked about. My short answer is, look what's happening with the infrastructure bill. Do you think anything's going to change anytime soon regarding housing? Probably not. The Section 8 and housing vouchers have been around a long time. I'm pretty sure it was like Nixon Ford era.
Wow.
And the idea of it was, okay, we're not going to build these projects in government housing anymore. We're going to, put this on a little bit on the landlords to provide some affordable housing, get it off the government's plate as much. The issue is, like in New York State, I don't remember how long the wait list is, but I know it's in the tens of thousands there's a capped amount that you have that each state has access to for housing assistance. And so there's usually these really long waiting lists to be able to access Section 8 or any kind of voucher program. So, you know, it's an issue. It's going to continue to be an issue. I would imagine that they're going to tweak the existing structure versus tear the whole thing down and start something from scratch. Just historically, what we've seen in politics and government and how things work, I feel like it would be pretty rare for them to just rip the whole thing down and say, here's a new program we're putting in place. If anything, they're going to amend and Frankenstein the existing program to death.
Yeah.
And, you know, another generation will have to deal with it. That's usually the government's strategy, I feel like. So, yeah. So my opinion, I don't think they're going to do away with it. I think it's a problem. State by state, it's a problem. If anything, they're gonna expand it, would be my guess, versus tear it down and rebuild it. So, yeah, that's my opinion.
Cool. Okay, let's go. This is interesting. This is from James. James in New Jersey. Finally, I got somebody that said James where they're located. All right, James from New Jersey. Hopefully you're still on. Here's your question. His question is, the tenant's lease term has ended.
Mm-hmm.
The tenant told James that she's not able to move out her belongings for at least 2 more weeks. Okay. But she already is living in a new apartment not too far away down the road. Okay. She told James, if you touch my things, I sue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So James told her that he needs the apartment empty to rent, which is, you know, that's how it should be. Yeah. And would move all her stuff into storage where she could pay them.
Yep.
And pick it up.
Yep.
The day after her lease ends.
Yeah.
She is turning in her key on the day of lease end. He wants to know what's the right move.
So first off, don't accept her turning in the key without doing a final inspection.
Mm-hmm.
And
with the final inspection.
Yeah.
And I remember this from back in the day here.
Yeah.
Is it good to record the walkthrough on your phone maybe?
Well,
or take at least pictures.
100% take pictures. Recording it would be kind of weird.
Just kind of do a walkthrough. Just say, hey, I got Joe here.
It's not a horrible idea.
So they can't say I never. They took it after I left.
Well, what you want, and again, you can get it on RentPrep.com. You want a move in, move out checklist, an inspection sheet.
Oh, I like that. You guys, that's right. We got that for you guys.
So you go down the checklist and you're looking at everything, and you're checking it off, signing off, snapping photos, maybe shooting the video, and you're getting their acknowledgement on it too, because they should be with you.
Then they get a copy too.
They get a copy.
You get a copy. They get a copy. You got pictures. There's no disputing it.
No, there should be no case ever where the tenant drops the keys off, says see you later, give me my deposit back, and then you go in and look at things and you're like, oh, this is crazy. You want to do that walkthrough with them.
Right. Okay. So that's step 1. Do the walkthrough. Do it the right way, James.
So James, she's not going to pass the inspection because her stuff is still there.
Okay.
The place is not cleaned out.
Right.
And at that point, I'd say you got a decision to make here. You know, you're not storage.
Mm-hmm.
She's made it clear that he's not to touch that.
Right.
Logically, she's still renting. She's occupying that space, and she's still renting. So I would say you have to treat it at that point as an eviction, or at the very least an abandonment. And so I would let her know you're going to start the filing process.
Or what about if she's up to date on her all her payments?
Mm-hmm.
He still has a security deposit, which hopefully is at least 1 month.
Yeah.
And just maybe do a side deal and say, hey, listen, I get it. I'll tell you what. We still do the walkthrough to make sure that there's no major damage, like she had a kegger there or something like that, right? The doors are off the hinges.
Yep.
It looks like it's in good condition.
Yep.
At this point, it's just, I'm going to keep your security deposit.
Yes.
And you know what? Instead of trying to force you out in 2 weeks, you got a full month. You keep the keys, or however which way you want to do that. I guess at that point you can do it. And I mean, if you want to get snazzy with it, and she says, "Well, I only need the 2 weeks," or "What if I go over? Can I prorate?" I mean, I guess there's little tweaks there, but in the end, I mean, you still have something. You have that security deposit, maybe.
100%. I like where you're going with that.
So maybe go that route.
Yes. So then what you do?
So there's no friction because right now she's already got her dukes up.
Yep. So
you don't want to.
Yeah. So what I would do is, which is a great strategy, tell her, as long as your stuff is still there, I can't do the final inspection. You tell me when your stuff's out.
Right.
We're gonna walk through. We're gonna do the final inspection. If she asks for her security deposit back, the answer is obviously no.
No.
Final inspection's not complete. I don't know what damages are or what's gonna happen or what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you do that, and then when it comes time for the security deposit, you prorate either the rent or a storage fee.
Right.
And you take it out of the security deposit.
Yeah.
I would say prorate the rent.
So would he still do the walkthrough or no?
You still do the walkthrough.
You do the walkthrough.
Yeah, do the walkthrough. So I would either treat her as you're still renting from me. If you're refusing to leave,
right,
and you can't just leave your stuff here, and I obviously can't take my key because, and you don't have one because then you can't come get your stuff.
Right.
So that would be considered a lockout. Landlord can't do that. So your only option is to continue to give access. Whether she's living there or not, she's renting from you.
Technically, okay. And then the other route would be, what if she doesn't agree to any of this and says no?
Mm-hmm.
And how long can a landlord wait after the person has technically moved out because their lease has expired?
Yeah.
Let's just say she's like, no, I'm giving you the keys, but I don't know how she would get her stuff.
How does she get her stuff?
But my question is, how long technically does a landlord have to wait then in order for him to have legal authority to go into the apartment and say, man, I left all this stuff, I'm just putting it to the curb?
Right.
I mean, what's the difference between that and a single tote of clothing that maybe somebody forgot?
Right.
Can they sue you for that?
So you have to treat it as abandonment.
Okay.
That they just left the stuff there. And that's a different process that you take.
Okay.
So I would say option A, charge her rent for the next month. If she refuses to pay, on the third or fifth day, depending on your state, file an eviction.
File the eviction. Even though her lease has ended, though?
She's still there. She's refusing to vacate. She's refusing to leave.
But then this just prolongs James's opportunity to rent.
It's going either way. So the more diplomatic, if you want to call it, approach, and hopefully she keeps her word,
right,
is you say, okay, you call me when everything's out, then we'll do the final walkthrough.
Okay. Maybe
Strategically don't say anything about how you're going to handle it, but you do that final walkthrough. You say, okay, cool, I'm going to assess everything and we'll return that security deposit. And again, you return that security deposit minus the prorated amount for 14 days of rent.
Should he put that in writing and have her sign it, or no? Because it shouldn't be a shake of hand or gentleman agreement or anything like that. Everything should be in writing.
Yeah, no.
If you're going to do at least a prorate, at least something little.
Again, if it should be in the lease terms there too, that if they're there, they're paying rent. So it depends on how standoffish she is. She sounds like she's pretty standoffish if she's threatening to sue. Okay. So I would just make sure, listen, you're not getting your security deposit until we do the final walkthrough. Can't do the final walkthrough until everything's cleaned out.
Okay.
And that's got to be the approach that you take. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, I'd love a follow up on that one.
James, if you're out there, man, I'd love to hear how this one goes.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what happens in a month and how that went. And I wish you the best, but I also know that things can go sideways. And this lady, the tenant, she tells you 2 weeks, but you're a month later you're standing there with her garbage in your apartment. Or
touch my stuff and I'll sue.
Yeah.
I should put that sign on my desk for people to take my pens and the scissors.
Yeah.
Touch my stuff and I'll sue.
Touch my stuff and I'll sue. I like that.
Sue.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other live ones here?
Yeah, I got one from Craig that I think I can answer really quick. So Craig Hansen asks, I've got a single member LLC. Am I supposed to have annual meetings with and an operating agreement? So technically, yes, 100% on the operating agreement. Annual meetings, I know it seems weird to have a meeting with yourself. And
that's what you were having all this time until I came in the picture.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I mean, you want to follow the correct corporate structure.
Yeah.
So that's more of a, paperwork thing. No one's ever going to challenge you on that. You for sure, I would say, want to have at least somewhat of a good operating agreement. If you're treating this as a business and, getting loans or anything like that, or structuring this thing out.
You need documentation.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
You have to have something tangible showing.
Yeah.
There's at least that effort there, whether it's just you or if there's 10 people. I mean, write down an outline of what a meeting would even entail.
Yeah, the meeting would be weird, but I would say at the very least you're, like I know for us as an S corp, we're just, and I've got an LLC as well, and we're just signing off saying, okay, this quarter we met, kind of a state of the company thing, how things are going, and so maybe you're just acknowledging that you're doing a review for those meeting minutes. But again, who's ever going to challenge you on that? That's going to be more of an administrative thing that you might need to present if you go get a loan or you want to sell the company or something like that. But assuming you're putting your rental properties into the single member LLC, no one's ever going to come knocking asking for your meeting minutes. And again, it would be weird if it was just you tracking your minutes. Yeah.
Get to arguments with yourself.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Craig disagreed.
With Craig.
Things got heated. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. That's Craig. Chris. Chris has a question. How much can I increase rent legally?
So, does it say, Chris, from what state?
No.
Well, I know California's got 5% in place. Different states have different rules. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's based on a percentage. Sometimes it's based on the lease term.
Are there any states out there that they don't care how much it is? It's your house. You can rent it whichever way you want, or increase it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's like a sure, safe way to get somebody out that you don't want there anymore.
Right.
You paid $1,000. I did some renovations. It's now $2,500.
Well, so in California, this is a good example of why they have these protections in place now. Because back when there was this huge boom in San Francisco, these landlords are like, "Hey, wait a second. These people are paying $1,000 in rent.
Right.
I can get a guy from Silicon Valley in here, and he'll pay me $5,000 in rent."
Yeah.
So they start jacking the price up, displacing all of these people. And so that's why that protection is there. So it depends on your state. So look that up first. We've got a pretty good resource on, again, RentPrep.com.
Where can you find that?
RentPrep.com, state-by-state resource. You want to make sure you're getting the most up-to-date stuff. So even if you start at RentPrep.com, click on your state under state resources, and it'll take you to the state website.
Oh, okay.
Where if there was a change, it's going to be on that state website.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the answer to that is maybe. Maybe you can raise the rent. Depends.
Other states that you can't?
There are restrictions on how much.
You can do it. It just depends on the state.
Yeah, and you gotta do it reasonably. So if you are under a lease agreement with somebody, you can't raise the rent until you re-sign that lease agreement, because just as much as the tenant is responsible for the terms of the agreement, so is the landlord. It's an agreement. It goes both ways. You can't have them sign that and then say, like, midway through, like, I'm going to raise the rent on you. You got to wait for that agreement to lapse. A new lease goes in place.
Right.
And then, then you can raise the lease amount.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You want to do...
Debbie?
Debbie Lee from California. Hold on a second here. Debbie Lee, you're getting in more than once here. You were the second question.
Well,
we'll do it. We'll read Debbie Lee real quick here.
All right. So Debbie says, I'm in California. My tenant didn't pay rent for September, and we already gave them 60 days notice to quit, which is due early next week. They didn't give me any response when they will move out, but I know that they are still on my property. What's the procedure for me before I file eviction lawsuit? After the notice to expire, or after the notice expire, if they refuse to respond to my inquiry. You're treating this just as a regular eviction. So, after the time frame, you want to go back to the court. You want to make sure you're updating that eviction.
Right.
So you're probably going to get a forcible entry and detainer, which then they're going to be served. which then gives them, certain amount of time, usually 30 days to vacate the property. If they don't vacate the property, then you can enforce that, usually with the sheriff's department. You got to pay the sheriff's department to come out and enforce that. So right now it sounds like, Debbie, you're in the notice to quit, not the file the eviction stage. So you want to file that eviction really as soon as possible. Get
So
that.
what are you thinking? Like start to finish before Debbie can get back into her property and at least clean it up and vacuum up for the next potential tenant here.
Depends on how compliant the tenants are. They could drag this thing out, and it drags out for a couple of months.
What's the minimum you think? 60 days, 90 days?
Minimum? Well, the minimum could be which hopefully is usually the case, is they get the eviction notice and they realize like, this is all right. Now this just got real.
Right.
I'm getting out of here. I don't want this kind of
Heat
coming down on me.
You need this heat.
If they've been through this before and they're old pros, then they're going to see the eviction
I got at
notice.
least 2 more months.
Yeah, they're going to
This
see
is some free living here.
Exactly. They're going to be like, yeah, good luck, and I know how long I've got.
And then do you typically see with your clients, or your landlord clients, that if they're, when it comes to the eviction process, because it takes sometimes as long as it does, are there other ways or other methods that you have seen?
Yeah.
Just through the grapevine, other
Yeah.
strategies maybe the other landlord says, man, I found it was a lot easier to go this route. Yeah, it still costs me money, but in the long term of things,
right.
it didn't cost me as much as it would if I went from the process start to finish, especially in these times.
Right. So, I've got the answer, and it's not a popular one. There is a alternative solution, which is cash for keys.
Cash for keys.
Cash for keys, paying
Okay.
them to leave. And this is
How does that work?
well,
What would you say?
for a lot of landlords, this is a moral loss for them, right? Like they hate the principle of this, which
Right.
is, so in this case, you got somebody that won't leave. You start to see like, shoot, they're gonna dig their heels in.
Yeah.
They're not gonna make this thing easy. They're gonna
Right.
drag it out. I'm missing months and months worth of rent, and it comes down to a mathematical business decision at that point.
Sure.
If I lose 90 days worth of rent at, let's just say easy numbers, $1,000 per month,
Okay, that's $3,000.
I'm out $3,000. Let's hope that they don't kick holes in the wall and flush their socks down the toilet.
Another $3,000.
Right, before they leave.
Now I'm 6 in the hole.
Yep. So then you get creative and you say, okay, how about this? I won't file the eviction, or we won't execute on the eviction, or we'll give you this amount of time to leave, and we'll pay you $1,000. If you hand over the keys, we do a walkthrough. There's no additional damage beyond what's already done.
Give you $1,000 cash.
Yep.
Crisp hundreds.
Yep. 1,000 cash.
Huh.
Just to
walk out.
just
Just
to-
you know what? Just
Yep.
here, they might actually do it
Oh,
actually.
a lot of people do it.
Because they don't have the money to pay the rent anyways. If you show
Yeah.
Chris $100 bills.
Yes. Now, again, a lot of landlords hate this because on principle,
Principle, I get it.
they don't love the idea. And then the other pushback that I get a lot of times is, well, then word's going to get out that this is how I operate, and now everyone's going to try to strong arm me into paying for them to leave.
Word's gonna get out.
I've never ever in my life heard of a situation where
Hey,
word got out.
You're looking to make a quick $1,000.
Yeah.
You got to move into this guy's place.
Right. Get
Not pay
evicted.
rent.
Right.
And then you get $1,000.
Right.
Nah, I don't know.
It's a long strategy, but
it
yeah.
can be done.
so yeah, I my personal opinion is it works.
Yeah.
It's useful.
Something to consider.
Something to consider.
Right.
Get them
It's getting over that hump of that moral, that just that principle, that pride thing.
exactly.
Man, this guy hasn't paid me. I'm
Yep.
going to give you $1,000. Yeah.
Yep.
Because you're going to save another maybe 5-6 G's.
Yes. So might be a loss in the prideful landlord column, but a win in the businessman
Right.
column. Like that's a good business
It's
decision.
also a great story when you're out with your buddies drinking. You're like, and then I paid the guy $1,000 to leave, and he did it.
Right.
And then your buddy's like, wait a minute. And then you sound like the smart guy. Like, listen, I
Right.
did the mathematical.
Yeah.
Listen, I did the whole pie thing, and
Right.
by the end of the day, I actually made $5,000.
Yeah.
That's why drinks around me tonight.
Right. I'm ahead.
Right.
Now
Okay.
I don't have to lose sleep and worry about
Right.
this anymore.
Okay, that'll work.
Yeah.
Cool. So there you go. There's a different option for you, Miss Debbie Lee. Again, it's good luck with everything, and hopefully it works out for you. But at least you got a couple different options there, some creative ones too.
Yeah.
Let's go on to let's see here. Denise from Jersey.
D-Nice.
Nice.
Can you really get in trouble for giving a negative reference if everything I say is true? I rarely get calls for references, but one of my last tenants now has no rental references due to harassing me and my other tenant. And her brother's a lawyer. She did pay her rent, but I would not give her a good reference for many reasons. I see other landlords that refuse to give references at all. So, okay. Got a lot of insight on this because for years and years on RentPrep, we used to have our Platinum product, which included phone verifications for current and previous landlords.
Okay.
And I would say this, there's sort of two ends of the spectrum. On one end, there's this camaraderie between landlords of like, I don't want to see anyone have to suffer the way that I did.
Right.
I'm gonna give it to you straight.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the other side of the spectrum is, listen, this person was a pain. I'm glad to be done. I don't want to have anything more to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried that if I pick a little bit more,
you don't want this you want to cross this person at tops.
yes. Well, not even that, but like, yeah, just listen. I've gotten them out of my life. I'm cool. I don't want to make this thing any potentially worse, whether it Tops or they got a lawyer.
You guys know who Tops is? Tops is like a grocery store, just so you know.
Yeah, Wegmans,
It's
Kroger, Costco. Yeah,
Costco.
Right. So as long as it's okay, so if it's true, and as long as you don't have any kind of non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
You know, like as long as you don't have anything in your lease that says that you can't disclose or say anything. But if normally when a tenant signs an application, a rental application, especially on the RentPrep rental applications, which I hope that everybody's using ours or something like ours that has all the proper disclosures, it says on there, you give authorization to verify with my employer and verify previous rental history or current rental history. So they're going into it knowing that their old landlords, current landlords are going to be called and communicated.
So I mean, at the end of the day, you certainly can give a reference. It's not, it's, I mean, I guess it's rather be objective than subjective, and just give the facts. Don't give opinions. Just be, straight up. But again, they don't need to be hearing the ins and outs and the stories. And then she said this to me.
Yeah.
And it was with an attitude. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I didn't like her attitude. And then she told me I didn't like your. So again, just facts.
No.
People don't want to get to that small talk because then it gets weird. Like, oh yeah, I know. Oh really? And then what'd she say?
We got a lot of that. I've heard many conversations and had conversations with landlords about the crazy stuff the tenants did.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I'll mention too is the other thing that we've seen is sort of this read between the lines answer.
Okay.
Right? So it's basically saying like, listen, I'm not going to go through and answer all the detailed questions about did they pay the rent on time? Did they leave the property clean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to answer all that stuff.
But
I had enough issues. I just want to be done.
Oh, there it is.
Right? So
sometimes little is more.
Read between the lines.
Yeah.
And so back when we used to do this, offered as a product, we would notate exactly what the person said.
Yeah.
And, message received on the other end, and the other landlord's like, listen, it's not...
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Exactly. It's not a great reference, So,
they can't really hold you to that, too. Listen, you didn't really... All I said was, listen, I'm just glad I'm done with this guy.
Yeah.
Or girl.
Right. So legally, we carried this product for years and years. I've never in my life seen anybody get sued. I've seen people get upset.
Sure.
I think that's really what people want to try to avoid is...
I think the more detail you give, the more you could pose an issue down the road. But again, keep it vague, keep it factual, and again, use the old read between the lines that Steve's talking about. I think that really goes further than anything. Yeah, but I do feel I like seeing when landlords have a sense of camaraderie and responsibility to protect future landlords, even if they don't know them, to say like, listen, I wish somebody would have told me ahead of time. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a review that you would leave on Google or something like that. Like I guess it's kind of like the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So as long as it's factual.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
What do you got?
Next one on the list.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Hold on. Let me get some good ones. I got some shorter. Okay, so here's from Anonymous. I should say it's from you, Debly. If you're still out there, you're hitting us with all these questions. But this is from Anonymous. It says, I know this is controlled by state laws, but what is a reasonable security deposit? And also, what is a reasonable early lease termination fee?
So, yeah, state by state, right? Like, so
Yeah.
California, I believe, is 2 months rent for deposit.
Okay.
Pretty sure Massachusetts is one,
Right.
or maybe 1,000 or 1 month. It's like one of those type of deals.
Yeah.
Um,
And then early termination or early lease termination. I think obviously you have to have that in the original lease signed, so you have to be
Yes.
specified. And then,
yes.
but
And
what is reasonable? I mean,
I would
don't
say
know.
a minimum of 1 month, because
Absolutely minimum of 1 month.
what you want to make sure you're covered for is that turnaround time.
Right.
So, all right, you're gonna break the lease. Okay, I at least need a full month to turn this thing around and
Sure.
get it re-rented.
And I guess that also comes down to you is like, how are you keeping your records? If you can show a record of how long it typically takes you to rent your property out,
Yeah.
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Depending on what market you're in.
Yeah.
You know, you really are hoping that people are sticking to their 1 year lease because it may have taken you 90 days.
Right.
But again, you wanna at least have that so you can justify
Yes.
the amount that you're doing, but not get crazy with it.
Yeah. So, I think it's the right question to ask in the beginning of the lease agreement.
Right.
Because you want to make sure it's in the lease agreement. It's not one of those things afterwards you'd be like, man, I feel like 1 month rent is good,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then you come up to an agreement with them, or you tell them, like, it needs to be known ahead of time going into that agreement what they're
Right.
what they're coming up against. So I would say,
But what do you think is reasonable?
I think for a reasonable security deposit, minimum of 1 month. If you can get more, great.
For early lease termination.
Early lease termination, same thing. I would even say 2 months. On that.
I was gonna say 2.
Yeah, because then you're also discouraging them.
From actually doing it.
breaking
Well,
the
I'm only
lease.
gonna lose 1 month.
Right.
Man, 2 months?
Yeah.
Nah, you're talking some
Yeah.
bucks there.
Yep. Now you're making them really.
Really think about that. Like, do I really want to move out?
Right.
Is it really necessary? I only got like 4 months left.
Yeah. So again, double check with your state. Make sure there's no limits or restrictions on that. But
I think 2 is reasonable.
I think it's reasonable too.
Okay.
I think 1 is maybe you're making the decision a little easy for them. 2, yeah, you gotta want that.
You gotta, yeah.
You gotta want to be
You
out
gotta
of there.
really gotta get out of there.
Yeah.
Maybe you got that crazy, the dog, barking dog. You just don't stop.
Right.
All right, this is a good one.
Okay.
I like this one.
All right.
Um,
I'm nervous.
I think even a homeowner
Okay.
for that, like who actually is not renting, is just this their house, might have this one too. Okay.
Okay.
This is from Celine. Celine wants to know, what do I do about a tree branch that's encroaching from my next door neighbor's property? You got a pool? If you got a pool, I'd be out there in the middle of the night like this,
Yeah.
sawing it down.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that comes down to, you gotta talk to the guy.
I was just gonna say, be a good neighbor. Go talk.
Hey,
Right.
it's kind of coming over a little bit. Or
Yeah.
if it's hitting like the wires.
Right.
If there's wires, then all you gotta do is call the electric company. That's what I actually did that one time.
Oh, and they came out and.
They came out and cut them down. It was problem solved. It was just some pine trees, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and I saw this thing bending,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of like, again, if you were to draw a straight line from my property line, it was absolutely on my property.
Right.
So I saw it was close to the wire, so I just called I said, hey, listen, I'm kind of worried about this. It's not on my property, but if this thing comes down,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah. You took the wires out. Yeah.
They trimmed it halfway. So imagine a tree like this, like a Christmas tree.
Right.
They literally like cut it like this, so it looked like they. I always tell the guy, hey, bring it in for Christmas.
Right,
this year.
right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah.
You're already there, right?
Yeah. Give me the top of the
Give
tree.
me
I'll
I
take
just
it.
want the top. And eventually the guy just took it out. But
Right.
if that's not the case, yeah, I would go definitely talk to the guy first. Now, what if you already talked to the guy and he laughed at you? He's like, it's a tree, man. Get over it. It's kind of like asking me, I don't know, make it not rain on my lawn today.
Right.
Well,
Well,
what do you do?
so homeowner to homeowner, you've got a responsibility
You sure do.
to address that, take care of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, all right, so you go knock on the door and they tell you go pack sand. I don't
Right.
care. It's not my not my concern.
Yeah, it's a tree, man. It's going to grow.
Yeah. Then I would take it up with the town. because
Yeah.
that's what it becomes. Is that now becomes
That's a town issue.
That's a
right.
town issue. So I can't guarantee how, expedient the town is going to be in helping you address the issue.
Right.
But that's the proper channel to go through, because now that's an ordinance
Sure.
issue.
Also document if it's holding or if it's like causing damage.
Yeah.
You definitely want to document that,
Yeah.
and try to, if that's the case, go to the town.
Yeah.
And say, hey, look at these pictures. Look
Right.
what it's doing in my house.
Right.
Or whatever the case is.
Here's the best advice, though. Don't go to the town first.
No,
Go to the neighbor first.
definitely the neighbor.
Be a good human being.
Right.
I'm
If you don't live there though, you're just renting it.
Still, go to the neighbor.
Yeah.
It's always good to go to the neighbor. I moved into a new house pretty recently, and I was stunned to find out that my two neighbors on each side of me have never spoken to each other. And I
Well,
was
people
like,
don't talk anymore.
it blows my mind. It
Yeah.
just blows. Like, go talk to the neighbors. Especially if it's
Yeah.
your rental. Talk to the neighbors, because those neighbors someday might be the.
Those are the ones that are going to call you and say, hey, I see a lot of traffic going in and out of this house.
Exactly. I'm just gonna tell you, they're the canary in the cave.
Canary in the cave.
They're the ones that are telling you, hey, something doesn't look right.
Yeah. I got a lot of canaries in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I love it though. I really do. They keep an
Yeah.
eye on my house. Hey,
Yeah.
Carlos, I noticed you weren't home yesterday.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You noticed. Ron, get out of the window.
Right, right.
Enough already.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah. There is a point where it becomes kind of useful.
But if you're not living there and there's tenants there, those are the people I think you want on your side anyways.
100%.
Yeah.
It's just good peacekeeping and
Sure.
good. Listen, it's being a good human to say, like, hey, this is my rental property.
Right.
I'm not here all the time.
Sure.
Anything comes up,
Yeah.
let me know. I want to be a good neighbor. I want to be a good member of the community, good citizen. So
Sure.
just,
Don't own the approach.
yeah, people don't do that enough anymore.
So what to do? Let's go to the neighbor first. Let's talk to him.
Yes.
They tell you go pack sand, do your due diligence, kind of almost create a case for the town.
Yeah.
Then you go to the town and say, hey guys, listen, this is the situation.
Yep.
And then from there they'll be able to kind of hopefully give you instruction or say, you know what, we'll be right out.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Right. Probably. Yeah.
This is a good opportunity for us to use a new piece of equipment we got.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, but you want to take it through the proper channels. If you've first tried diplomatically to handle this as one good neighbor to another, like, hey.
Now, don't you legally have the right though, if something is encroaching on your property, to at least cut it down?
I'm sure that.
I know at least where I live.
Yeah,
it's very clear, that if it's like big branches coming over,
yeah,
I can trim that branch.
yeah, but
Obviously, I'm not going to have a happy neighbor about that.
no, but I would say also, what if it's something that you can't do on your own, and it costs $500 to have a professional company come out and trim it? Who's responsible for that?
Yeah.
Is it you because it's your property, or is it them because it's their tree technically?
Right.
So that's why I would go to them, making that assumption. Listen, this is your responsibility. It's your tree.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can get in trouble for cutting it because it's on your property.
Right. Just don't cut it down.
But then it's your bill.
You're out there in the middle of the night,
Right.
chopping this thing down.
Right.
You hear something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear something.
Yeah.
I don't know. You come out, the apple tree's down.
Yeah, this thing's been leaning to my property. I think the wind just finally took
We're
it.
just gonna lean it this way now.
Yeah, right.
All right. Where are we at with time? Are we good?
Couple more minutes. We'll get through a
All
couple
right.
more here.
Did you want to see if we have anything on live chat real quick?
I think we're caught up here. Nope. Denise asked, "Can you legally cut anything?"
We got
You can legally cut anything that
There it
crosses
is.
your property line, says Denise. So.
You can legally cut anything.
Yeah. All right. So
All right.
let's go through a couple more here.
Yeah. Question from Gerald. Mr. Gerald's asking how to report non-payment of rent to credit bureaus when it is only one tenant for mom and pop landlords.
Yeah. This one's tough.
It is.
So back in the day, you'd get a judgment, and the judgment would appear on their credit report.
Right.
That doesn't happen
That doesn't
anymore.
exist anymore.
And nowadays, I won't say names because they haven't been fully properly vetted yet. But we have just spoke to a couple of weeks ago the first company that I've ever seen that claims to have the mechanism in place for mom and pop landlords to report.
To do this.
Right.
Yeah, this is exciting news.
Yeah, because traditionally you have to have an accounting system in place
Yep.
that can push that information to the credit bureaus.
Right.
You can pay as a landlord a credit bureau to report a payment or a non-payment or whatever.
But then doesn't the bureau then send you paperwork monthly
Yes.
that you have to sign off on saying
Yes.
still hasn't been paid?
Yep.
Just like if you were to look at your credit card statement, so
Yes.
you'll be looked at as almost a credit of the property and payment not paid.
Yes.
And every month you got to do this, and if you don't do it,
Yes.
then the bureau automatically takes it off because
Yes.
you didn't do your due diligence.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Which would just be an expensive, giant waste of time.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
you.
It's just not even okay.
Yeah, and if you go to the bureau with just so you didn't start this from the beginning, there's no good payments to report, you just have that one negative payment to report.
Mm-hmm.
Now it doesn't show up as an actual trade line.
Mm-hmm.
At best, you're going to get it to show up as a collection account.
Oh,
At
so
best.
you have to, at best.
So,
And nowadays, collection agencies aren't even doing that often
Yeah.
because it costs money to
Yeah.
report it. So that's more actually a negotiation tool.
yes.
Again, back in the day,
Yeah.
coming from a collection background, we would not report it to credit.
Yeah.
And give the person the option to say, listen, we use that as leverage.
Yeah.
Listen, this still hasn't gone on your report yet.
Right.
Let's get this thing squared away and we keep it off.
Exactly.
Because once it's on,
Yeah.
it's on and people are like, you know what, it's already on. What
Yeah.
can I do about it?
Yeah,
So,
there's there's no incentive there's more incentive to avoid it.
Right.
So maybe that's kind of where the answer lies. Is like you let them know you don't want them to call your bluff, so don't go in not having any plan at all. But
right.
maybe you want to tell them, listen, I don't want to report this to the credit bureau, but I will.
Right.
So we want to make sure that you're paid up on time.
Mhm.
That's a good strategy. But unfortunately for mom and pops, there's not a lot of good sources out there,
Yeah.
and the ones that are out there certainly don't make it easy.
But we're working on something.
We're working on something.
We're working on something.
Yeah.
So just
In the future.
in the future, hang tight. Hopefully, we have something like that for you because again, we've recognized this, and there's other people out there who have too. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, that'll work. Let's see here. Question from James. Okay, James. James received a letter from the town of a health violation. Apparently, tenants are feeding stray animals.
Oh, I was gonna say hoarder. Okay, go ahead.
No, stray animals. 1 month after the violation letter and confirmation that tenants are no longer feeding tenants, they have a raccoon problem and can hear the animals under the crawl space. Oh boy. I told them there had never been an issue with animals up until the point the town sent the violation warning and they would have to take care of it. Also told them if I have to send in the animal removal company, they will be charged for the service. What to do?
Yeah.
Well, good thing it's just raccoons.
Yeah.
My neighbor across the street was feeding a skunk.
Oh.
She thought it was a cat.
Oh.
And I know they made a commercial on that, but I'm telling you the guy's honest truth. She told me, she goes, Carlos, make sure you close the garage. You know that cat I've been feeding? I says, yeah, Miss Carol. It was a skunk.
Oh my.
The skunk sprayed. I'm not lying. Then we had a skunk. She was feeding around the top porch. It was like a cat. It was crazy. Poor
Oh,
Miss
and
Carol.
that'll sting for a long time.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I understand this.
Right. So it looks like
They've
they've been feeding these animals. Now all of a sudden there's a raccoon problem.
now there's a raccoon
Now
problem
there's a ra-
in the property.
in the property.
Yeah. All right. So
Wow.
again, document everything.
Yeah.
Document everything so that if this ends up being something that you do have to go to court, you can say, listen, never an issue. All of a sudden we get notice that the town had to get step in and get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I guess it. I mean, you got to prove that number one, the tenant was feeding.
well, let's first
How do you? I mean,
let's first make sure. Usually in lease agreements, again, it's clear in the agreement who's responsible for what.
okay.
So if the lease agreement says that the landlord is responsible for pest control, which is what this would fall under,
okay.
I think you can make a pretty solid case that this falls outside of the terms of the lease because you created this problem.
Right. I think it comes out of the creation of the issue.
Yeah. So
Okay.
if your lease agreement says that the tenant's responsible for pest control, then problem solved. That's the obvious answer anyway.
Okay.
If the lease agreement says nothing about pest control,
Right.
then I think you make the case that they created the problem and they should be responsible to pay for the solution.
Right. And again, now let's just say that James had to do that. Let's just say these people are only 6 months into their lease. They got another 6 months to go.
Yeah.
And we got to take care of the problem right now.
Yeah.
And James spends $500 on removal of the pests.
Right.
Okay. and he bills them out.
Yep.
And they don't pay.
Right. Security
Security
deposit.
deposit, right?
Yep. You hold on to that bill.
You gotta hold on to it.
Yep. Hold on to that bill.
Right.
Eventually, that comes out of the security deposit.
Right.
They want to fight it.
Or
Fine.
maybe tell them. Say, hey, listen, I'll take care of this, but I'm telling you right now, this is coming out of your security deposit.
Yeah.
Or strategically, you don't want to do that.
I would say strategically you don't want to do that because you always want that security deposit fear to be hanging over their head, or not fear, but just knowing that the day of reckoning is coming, and you want them to keep things clean and tidy and neat and not kick holes in the wall as much as
Right.
possible. If they start getting into their mind, I've already lost my security deposit, I'm not
Mhm.
getting anything. What's one more sock down the toilet? You know?
Ugh.
Yeah. So
I never got that. Let's just put a sock down the toilet and see what happens.
yeah, I'll tell you what happens.
I remember cherry bombs.
Yeah.
That just
Well, how
kind of
about-
shows you our age.
How about a bag of Quikrete concrete down the toilet?
That's sick.
It is. Andrew Schultz had to deal with that. Shout out to Andrew Schultz.
Oh man,
They had to rip out the driveway.
Andrew Schultz, if you're listening and you got pictures of that, I'm not. Listen, I just want to see that
$28,000 later.
because it went all down the pipes.
All went down the pipes.
They had to repipe everything.
Hardened in under the street, under the driveway.
Oh.
Nightmare. Nightmare. Yeah.
I think that's something that you would mention if somebody called you on the reference.
Yeah.
There's
Oh.
there's a specific right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm just glad I got rid of the guy. And I gotta
Yeah.
tell you one more thing.
Right.
Hold on a second.
Wow. That or you just triggered some PTSD and they just black out when you mention that name. Be like, yeah, I remember him.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Any other live or no?
Nope. Keep going. Keep
Okay.
going.
Here's an anonymous. It says here, what documents do you need to verify income if prospective tenants are self-employed? I had RentPrep do an income verification, but the tenant only provided their business bank account.
Mm.
I thought by using the income verification for RentPrep would require whatever documents they need for the prospective tenants to verify the income.
So, the income verification is a correct solution
Yep.
because your only other alternative is bank statements.
Right.
I would say tax statements, tax filings, not going to be useful to you. Anybody who owns a business knows your tax filings are not the appropriate measure of what your actual income is. Okay, having said that, bank statements. What you're looking for specifically, so before the days of our income verification product, which will actually reach into a bank account, skim it for deposits, and tell you how much the deposits were on a monthly basis, 3-month look back, a 1-year look back. So it's giving you true income,
Right.
which is the only way to measure true income from self-employed. Or now we live in this hustle or gig economy of
The Grubhub,
Grubhub,
people, the Uber, people. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Right. So they're not getting pay stubs and things like that.
Right.
So the income verification product is the right product, and you can use multiple bank accounts.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
At no additional fee. Pretty sure on that. No additional fee. So if they have their business bank account and their personal bank account, cool.
Do both.
Gives you both. It'll separate them. It'll say,
Right.
okay, here's the business, here's personal.
Mhm.
So, I think this question comes down to: did they knowingly not give their personal bank account?
I was just gonna say that they gave the better of the two.
Yes.
They didn't give you the full money.
Yes. So if that was me, I would say, hey, listen, I need your personal.
Right.
I got your business. Okay, great, but I need your personal.
Yeah.
If they refuse at that point for whatever the reason is,
Something's up.
that's to me that's
There's an indicator.
a red flag.
Yeah.
Because again, yeah, your business is going to look great. Cool. You got revenue coming in, especially on that product. It's just it's just telling you what's coming in or what's being deposited. It's not telling you what's going out. The business could be crumbling,
Sure.
and they could be upside down every single month and in the red, and business isn't going to be around very long.
Right.
They're just showing what the incoming revenue is, which doesn't mean anything.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I would push for the personal side, and if they refuse, why are they refusing?
I got two more.
Yeah.
And they're real quick.
Okay.
Okay, Rex in California. So Rex wants to know, how do I raise the deposit in California legally on a rental that has been occupied by the same tenant for more than 9 years and without losing the tenant?
Raise the deposit. Huh.
Raise the deposit. 9 years. So I guess first off, you got to answer the question: is how long are these lease agreements? Were they 1 year? Were they like a 5 year? I've seen long-term leases where the person's like, I'll pay for the next 5 years.
Right.
You know.
My guess would be that it probably started off as a 1 year, and
Yep.
then now it's rolling as a month to month.
For 9 years, huh?
For 9 years. It's great. It's a good tenant. My first question, or the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, we all know how valuable a good tenant is.
Right.
Is this worth?
The raise.
Is this worth risking?
Right.
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yep.
Why are you raising the deposit? Is it because you're concerned?
Right.
Okay, so if that's the case, maybe it's not such a great tenant.
Okay.
If it's not out of...
Well, I don't think he's concerned because he's asking without losing the tenant.
Yeah, listen, man, you
got somebody. You got the golden goose.
gotta pick
9 years.
You gotta pick your battles. You gotta pick your battles. I guess I'd want to know more about like what's driving the need to raise the deposit. It has to be based on some sort of fear that,
or unless it's been 9 years and the person's paying, let's just, again, easy numbers, $600 rent 9 years ago versus now, where probably could be getting double. I mean, again, it comes down to, okay, I mean, yeah, it comes down to why you want this person out, or it's not. It's just like, you know what, the property's worth a lot more.
Right.
If you're getting that much interest in the property, and people are saying, hey man, I'll give you $1,500 for that thing. What are you getting now? $600.
The right way to
There's a risk either way.
Right.
It just comes down to what risk you want to take. Do you want to risk getting somebody in there who may only last 3-4 months?
Right.
And you have somebody steady Eddie?
They've been 9 years.
Or
I take that 9-year tenant all day.
I think so too.
So if you wanted to do this, take out our reasoning and let's say you're like, Steve, Carlos, you guys are crazy. I'm doing this either way.
Right.
To do it correctly, I think what you'd have to do is you'd have to start from scratch.
If they're on a month to month, you have to wait till the end of the month.
End of the month.
Clean slate it.
Clean slate. Give them whatever security deposit they had back.
The whole thing.
Yep. Now you're on a new lease agreement.
All brand new.
All brand new.
This is what I'm doing.
This is the amount. All right. And I would say,
if they say I can't do that, say, well, I'll give you another month, but in 1 month I need you to leave because you're on the month to month, because this is what the rent needs there is going to be moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if they're assuming that they're a great tenant, you don't want to lose them, and for whatever your reasoning is, you have to have this higher deposit amount. Mm-hmm. Maybe you let them pay it off over time. Like, all right, every month give me an extra $100 until
balloon payments.
Yeah, $100 until you reached it, and then we're good. I don't know. Again, for me personally, like protecting that long-term tenant is more important in the short run.
Yeah.
And unless you have a reason to be very concerned, otherwise you're going to have to start over. I don't think you.
You got to start. I think you start. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only way.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to take a risk either way.
Yeah.
Depends on how you're feeling.
Yeah. Careful. You don't want to shake the tree too hard. Good tenants are hard to come by.
They are hard to come by.
Yeah.
All right, and then I got one here. This is kind of off point with the landlord stuff, but how can we participate in the AMA when we don't do Facebook? What's another way to do that?
So
that's a great question.
It is a pretty good question.
I would love to see our segment, but if I don't have Facebook, how do I?
So we post the AMAs to YouTube. Ashley does that. So that's one way they can check it out, is go to YouTube and look at it there. Join the Facebook group. If you just are not into Facebook and you hate it, YouTube's your only option.
But YouTube's for everybody.
Yeah. Or who do you know who sent that question in? Did you give a name? No name?
No name.
All right. Well, open invite. If you're in the area, you hate Facebook, you're not on Facebook, you're not a member of the community, you want to be on the AMA live in person, come sit on our beanbag chair.
We'll put you in the beanbag chairs. Yeah. It's over to our right, your left.
Yeah, you come be here live, you get it.
Yeah.
You get it live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, YouTube's your only option.
YouTube's out, but again, everybody's a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to go through any more, or are we strapped on time? Where are we at?
Let's do one more.
One more. Okay. Rebecca wants to know, if the tenant doesn't move out at the end of the lease, let's just say November 30th, should I pay a note, or should I put a note on the door asking him to move out? I already informed him that the lease is not going to renew or extend. What is the content in the note? An example. I don't know if you could put a note, but she wants to know if you want to put a note on. We want to know what we're going to put on the letter.
What are you gonna? Yeah. So
Well, hold on.
okay.
And then, do I need to inform the tenant that I will go there to put a note prior to the arrival? So it'll be like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm putting a note on your door.
Nope.
That would freak me out.
Yeah.
My rental contract says I can access the property. The property is located in Kissimmee, Florida.
Okay.
So, can I let the person know I'm going to put a note on the door? Can I put a note on the door to tell them you got to go?
Yeah.
Because it's not, we're not going to extend November 30th. You got to be gone.
Right. So first things first. This is a non-lease renewal, so you need to give notice of no renewal.
Right. She
And-
said she did that already.
She said.
I already informed him that the lease is not going to renew or extend. How did you inform
Right.
Rebecca?
So there's a form that you got to use. Again, you can get it on RentPrep.
RentPrep.
It's a non-lease renewal notice.
Can't just be word of mouth.
And in most states, so New York is one of the stricter states that says, okay, if they've been a tenant for 2 years or more, you got to give them a 90-day notice that you're not going to renew their notice or their lease. In a lot of states, if they're on month to month, you got to give them 30 days, sometimes 60 days, or at least before that 30 days, give them the full term 30,
Right.
to let them know we're not going to renew. So that would be my question: is did you give proper notice? Number one, was it the proper time? Number two,
Yep.
did she mention when she gave the notice to?
No, she
Okay.
just said she did, but it looks like November 30th they need them out.
Okay, so yeah,
And again, proper notice is having it in writing. You can't proper proper notice doesn't mean, well, I properly told them.
Yeah.
You got to go.
no, you want to put that in writing.
Got
You
it in
want to
writing.
and have good communication.
Yeah.
You know, hey, just want to make sure we're on schedule here. Make sure you don't have any questions. You know, we're turning the property over at the end of November, so you know, just want to make sure that that's still happening. I don't think that that's out of the question or out of the ordinary at all.
Right.
I'd be more likely to call and have that communication or text or email, whatever your normal mode of communication is, versus just going and noticing them to death. Like, try to communicate a little bit in between that notice. The notice is there as a, you know, as a have to do when you're supposed to do it, but that doesn't always necessarily replace good communication.
Right. Now, if you are going to do a note, this is just me personally, make sure you get a lot of magazines. And you got to cut the letters out one by one and be very simple with it.
You leave now.
You leave now. You go.
I'm watching you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
don't do that.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, give proper notice. Make sure Florida doesn't have any, which I don't think that they do, have any restrictions on how long they've been a tenant and how much notice you need to give based on how long they've been a tenant. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
All right.
What I've gathered, everything comes down to documentation.
Oh, that's key. It's
I mean,
huge.
again,
Huge.
you know, this whole gentleman's agreement, word of mouth, Bologna doesn't work.
No.
You got to have everything in writing.
Yep.
From start to finish.
Yep.
And if you forgot to do it in the beginning and you're halfway through and you want to make changes, can't do it.
No.
You got to wait to the end and put it in the lease.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure of what needs to be documented or you're not sure of the right way to word certain things, you got a resource.
Yeah.
You just go to rentprep.com.
Yeah.
And if we don't have it, give us a little ring.
Yeah.
We got people on standby that try to answer the question as best as they can, point you in the right direction, or it could be something that we could absolutely add to the website eventually. You know, hey, we're getting a lot of questions on this. This is the same one day in and day out.
Yeah.
We got to get this resource on the website. So again, you know, we listen to you guys. You know, we're a community here. So again,
and the Facebook community itself.
The Facebook community.
That's a great place to crowdsource a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you may not always get correct lawful answers, but you'll know what other people are doing.
Right.
So, you know, don't immediately shut your computer off when somebody gives you an answer and just run out and execute on that, because it may not be the right.
I got the answer.
May not be the right thing.
We're writing the letter. We're writing the notes.
Yeah.
Get the magazines.
Yeah, that's right. Start cutting.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for everybody who stuck around. Anybody else who's catching us on YouTube, remember to subscribe. We appreciate everybody that belongs in the community, the RentPrep family. thanks for joining us. Thanks again to Ashley. Thanks to Carlos, who I feel like passed the test. He's my new AMA guy.
Comment in the YouTube section under comments if you want to see me next week, and if you do, what color tie you want me to wear? I got a ridiculous amount of ties. I got a tie that has.
You better be
pineapples on
careful.
it.
Be careful what you wish for.
I'm wishing for it.
You don't want to read YouTube comments.
I just want to know what tie color.
I get a lot of comments on my eyebrows.
You have beautiful eyebrows.
Well, they move a lot when I talk, and so.
Whose doesn't move? I would be freaked out if your eyebrows didn't move.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point.
Right?
I'm not going to be self-conscious about
Don't
that.
be self-conscious about that.
Yeah.
You have beautiful eyebrows, and everybody's eyebrows move.
Yeah.
That would be weird if you didn't have any eyebrows at all. Now we got a problem.
Yeah.
If you want to see Steve shave his eyebrows by next week, just put it in the comments. We'll see what we could do.
All right, guys. Take it easy. Thanks again.